Well, sup, fucker?
Well, how the hell are you, bud?
Dude, I'm great.
Well, it seems like it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, last episodes we put out were in November.
Yeah, that was a whole lot has happened since November.
Yeah, so much has happened.
So that's what we are going to talk about today, I guess.
Weird shit.
Since we are, I mean, I don't want to say experts, but experts, I'll just say it.
Yeah, I mean, when people need answers, they call us.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had people come up and ask me what I think about, what's been going on.
Well, and
sit down and let me tell you about it.
Let Papa Dave explain some shit to you. Well, and I get the calls all the time. I mean, it's telemarketers, but maybe they want to know about UAP stuff.
Yeah. Maybe we should just start telling them about
it. Next time they answer, instead of just punking them, be like, dude, have you seen the drones in New Jersey?
Yeah. You're in IT, right? What do you think about these drones? So yeah, that's what we're talking about today is UAPs.
UAPs are Dior bags, as I found out this morning.
What?
Yeah. So I see a lot of the UAP stuff now on TikTok more than anything.
Yeah.
Just because it's an easily consumable thing where people are posting their own material where, they see UAPs and they record them with their phone and they post it. Mm-hmm. But there's this one lady, she's like digging for the truth about all the drones and a lot of the UAP activity, and she's referring to them as Dior bags.
Why?
Code name because TikTok is apparently shadow banning a lot of accounts and things like that are talking about it. So is
she the only one that's doing that?
Not everybody is now. I literally just dove into that one this morning because I was like, what the fuck is everybody talking about Dior bags for? I don't get it.
Dick bags, maybe.
Dick bag. Like... Well, I mean, if you spell it out, DIOR space BAGS, if you take out the space and just use the ORB. Orb. Very clever.
Yeah, I didn't. Maybe that's why. So I was like looking for stuff on TikTok about like the drones and stuff like that, and most of the stuff that I was finding was all fake shit.
A lot of it is.
Or it was like stuff that was filmed, but like years ago and in other countries, and like a lot of AI shit. And it's like, dude, why are people posting this shit? I mean, they want views, I guess, maybe.
I think that's the case for a lot of them.
So, yeah, I mean...
Clout chasing.
Pretty frustrating for, actual researcher like myself.
For a self-proclaimed expert as we are.
I don't know. I mean, I'll proclaim it for you, and you proclaim it for me. And so then it's...
I think you're an expert.
I think you're an expert.
See? We're experts.
Experts in this field.
Yes. This one in particular, probably not so many others. Ghost hunting for sure.
Yeah. I mean, 2 is more than 1, and 1 is more than 0.
Facts.
In most cases.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how many you want.
I guess so.
Well, it's like when somebody goes, is 5 a lot? Well, that depends. Just $5 million is a lot. But getting punched in the face 5 times is a lot too. It's just about what a lot is.
$5 is not so much, but 5 punches in your face would really suck.
Yeah, I mean, I would die after the first one, but...
Yeah. So, so what are your theories on...
Oh, man, I don't know if we have enough time on this episode to go through all of it. I think... let's go back to kind of where it's really been kicking off recently with the drones. I think the drones they're all man-made, but they're doing something, and they're manufactured. They're on some kind of a mission. They're probably looking for something, or it's It could be any number of things. But I 100% believe that the drones are just a total man-made thing, surely done by the government. The orbs, on the other hand, or the plasmoids, I think those are something totally different.
Yeah.
But most of the UAPs you see, I believe they're either ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, or they're actual alien technology.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I tend to agree. I think that out of all the, I spent, because we were planning on doing this, before Christmas, and so I was going through a bunch of stuff and just kind of spent the whole Christmas break kind of going through videos and rehashing and trying to find actual video evidence. And to me, most of the stuff that's been recorded looks like airplanes, and some of them look like drones. Some of the orbs are interesting, but if I had to sum it up, I would say probably 0.02% of what's been filmed is like probably anomalous. Yeah. And the rest of it is just airplanes and probably drones that people are flying to get attention. So going through it, it was like, okay, the timing is weird on everything to me.
Extremely weird.
Because you get Trump wins the election in early November.
Mm-hmm.
They have the UAP hearing on November 13th.
Yep.
And then you start seeing these drones appearing around the 18th. And they start appearing. And then more frequently, like every night, there's more and more sightings of these drones up until Thanksgiving, where there's no drones seen in the air, which is weird.
Yeah. Like, hey, let's have them let them have their long weekend for the holiday. Let's knock our shit off for 4 days.
Well, just Thanksgiving Day. Every other day there's like 100 and... So I was looking into it, and they said there was like between 100 and 180 reports every single day, except for Thanksgiving, when there were none.
Yeah. Well, probably everybody was inside just getting their
not
guts
outside flying their drones.
Everybody was like...
So it's like, okay, well, if it's China, why would they stop for...
Yeah, they wouldn't celebrate an American-specific holiday.
And if it was aliens, why would they stop?
They don't give a shit about holidays.
They don't give a shit. And so it leads me to believe that it's most of the stuff that people are seeing out there, they're just people flying their own drones or being outside and seeing something in the sky and say, that must be what people are talking about.
Yeah.
And then filming it. And you have to take into account that, most people are filming on their phones, and they're filming up into the sky, a light in the sky. If it's far away, your phone really isn't meant to record something that's 5 miles away in the sky. And also, something that's in the sky, you can't really tell how close or how far away it is and how big it is, because the sky is so big. It's like when you look at the moon, if you look at the moon and it's coming up over the mountains, the moon looks huge. Yeah. You're like, wow, look at the moon, and then all of a sudden it gets up into the sky, and all of a sudden it looks tiny.
Yeah.
Again, it looks normal size. That's just because you have a visual reference of the mountains and then the moon behind it, and the moon looks big, and then the moon gets up into the sky where there's nothing to reference it to.
Yeah, it's forced perspective.
Right.
Which is exactly what you need to learn if if you send dick pics. It's about forced perspective.
Right.
Don't put a $1 bill next to it, put a toothpick next to it. It looks enormous.
Or like a mini Coke.
Yeah, a mini Coke.
Mini can of Cokes.
Just put your thumb over the part that says
travel-sized, air freshener.
A chapstick.
Yeah.
But right on the side, mega chapstick.
Yeah.
So they think it's the big chubby one.
So yeah, I think that unfortunately, with as big of a conspiracy theorist that I seem to be, probably from these episodes that we've done, most of the shit that I see on there, I just if it has blinking lights.
That's the number one discrediting factor for me, because everything that's related to human-based technology and avionics is required to have blinking lights.
Yeah, FAA regulations.
Yeah, even your small drones, I mean, with the exception of model airplanes, which they're not required to, but there's a whole lot of factors that go into that. But your drones, anything that puts out like a high RF signal is required to have blinking lights on it.
Right.
So it's like if it has blinking lights, especially if they're red, white, or blue, forget about it.
Yeah.
It's something man-made.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I think that, that probably has a lot to do with it. And then also, you know, how likely is it that people are more seeing these things more in the sky, not knowing what they are, because especially around this times, because it gets dark way earlier.
Yeah.
And so it's like all of a sudden, yeah, maybe the planes fly over that area every single day. You just don't notice it because it's daytime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I thought about that too. It's kind of another forced perspective of when I would see weird anomalous things flying in the sky. It's because I was on the back porch because I was smoking at the time, and then I quit smoking, and there's no need for me to be out there or desire to. It's fucking cold outside.
Right.
So I don't go out there and see anything anymore. Besides that fact, using logic and reason, like going onto the FAA's website to track planes and things like that are in this flight path, because literally Salt Lake Airport is, 10 miles that way.
Right.
And this is a flight path north to south. And there's also a flight path east to west going that way. Like, I see planes all the time.
Also, there's another small airport right over here.
Yeah, just that one right over there. And planes always fly in seemingly either from the north or from the west, because we see them fly over work all the time.
Yeah.
Just the small little, Cessnas and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I think people just need to use, like, objective reality of, again, blinking lights, or I'm in a flight path of an international airport, things like that, versus just going, oh my God, there's a light up in the sky, it has to be an alien. Like, no, just because it's unexplainable to you doesn't mean it's unexplainable.
Yeah. It's unexplainable to me, but this is the first time in 10 years that I've looked up at the sky at night. So
yeah, the one time.
Yeah. I just happened to be caught in traffic and looked up and saw lights in the sky. Yeah, so for me, a lot of it was like going through each video and be like, I'd get through. I watched a lot of people's videos talking about like the UAPs or the drones. And as soon as I saw them talking about lights in the sky that was clearly an airplane, I'd be like, yeah, nope.
Yeah.
Next one.
Yep.
And it was like 90% of the shit that I was watching was like, this is so dumb. You're actually like perpetuating this false narrative of unknown things that are flying in the sky by showing a fucking airplane.
Yeah, something that a million people can watch and go, yeah, that's an airplane.
Yeah.
Or that's a drone.
Yeah.
Especially when you can hear the distinct sound of a drone. If you've ever been around one, you know exactly what they sound like. Even the big ones, the big commercial military-based ones that, they're the size of a Volkswagen, as they say. Like, those are real things, and they have that distinct hum. Same with an airplane flying overhead. You don't get the report of the airplane until it's almost past you.
Yeah.
And you hear that whoo.
Right.
Yeah, I think with the conspiracy theorist part, like, even as big as we are into it, there's so much shit that goes with it that you go, come on, man.
Yeah.
Don't be dumb.
Yeah.
Like, they're dumping chemicals into the sky, and that's why we're having all this fog, and you get a scratchy throat and a runny nose. Like, that's just seasonal fucking allergies. Like,
yeah.
It's normal to be foggy, especially here in Salt Lake where we have heavy inversion.
Yeah.
But you guys are just, at that point, just grasping for straws.
They've been seeding the air with chemicals. I feel like a congested. No, that's literally all the pollution gets stuck down in the valley in the wintertime because it's cold and it won't like rise up above the mountains.
And it creates
every single year.
It creates a vacuum inside the valley. That's why you don't eat Salt Lake snow.
Yeah, I would suggest not eating snow anywhere. But
well, it's definitely the worst here.
Yeah.
Remember that one really bad snowstorm we had? And it was just like mud
falling
out of the sky?
Yeah.
And it's just like car washes are doing great in January.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at my wife's family's house for Thanksgiving. Was it Thanksgiving? Or it might have been Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve. And we were having dinner, and my mother-in-law was talking about the drones and how she thought it was China and stuff. And I was just like, she was going off about how China's going to attack us, and I was like, first of all, China has all the data that they want on us at any time because they've already sold us all of our equipment that we use.
Yeah. Where do you think your phones come from?
Yeah. They know all the information that they want. Like,
yeah.
They don't need drone coverage to see what's going on. So I don't think it's China. But she was like, Spencer agrees with me, don't you? You're a conspiracy theorist. I was like, well, here's the thing.
I don't know there, Brenda.
So the timing of it is weird to me also because, like I said, Trump just got elected. In his last term as president, he created the Space Force.
Yeah.
First military branch created in 70 years. And so to me, it seems like it might be, like, as soon as he gets elected, boom, they have a UAP congressional hearing. Why? So they can allocate more money to the Space Force.
Did you listen to the Joe Rogan episode that he was on?
Trump?
Yeah.
I got like halfway through it.
So there was a point in the episode where naturally Joe Rogan asked him about it. And he talks about, Joe Rogan asked him about the UAPs, and then he's like, well, I created the Space Force, and believe me, we're gonna need those guys here very soon. Like, what is that supposed to mean? You can't say some shit like that and then just not elaborate on it. But then he was talking about disclosure and things like that, and kind of alluded to the idea that he wanted to have disclosure on the whole thing. But yeah, the timing was really kind of fortuitous in that, where it was like we had the last congressional hearing on UAPs with like David Grush and all those guys, and that was way earlier in the year, and that happened, and like nothing came out of it really. It's secondhand tales and things like that. And then my thought was, okay, we're just going to let that die and nobody's going to give a shit again. Yeah. And then just randomly out of nowhere, like, oh, hey, by the way, next week on Wednesday, we're going to have a congressional hearing on UAPs again. Yeah. Like, wait, what? Yeah. And like, we go from the Trump thing to that. And then there was this whole other conspiracy theory that the AI program, did you hear about this one?
I don't know. So
there was an AI program, I think it was created in 2009. It was designed to predict stock market trends. And and it predicted that 39 days after the president-elect was elected in 2024, we would have a melee in the sky, as they called it. A big battle between aliens and military forces. And so like all social media is blowing up with this melee or whatever. I think it was on December 3rd or something like that. I can't remember. But I remember like going to work, driving to work, looking up in the sky like, hey, there's not a fucking melee in sight. Yeah. Like,
wasn't that the day we went to lunch?
Yeah, that was. Yeah. Yeah. And then nothing happened. Yeah. Shocker.
It was a shocker. Yeah. Disappointing for sure.
I was super surprised when aliens didn't show up.
Yeah. So I was just curious, and so I looked up what the Space Force annual budget is. And so 2024, the annual budget was $26 billion for this allocated to the Space Force.
I wonder how that ranks in comparison to other branches.
Well, I looked that up also.
Oh, okay.
So the Army is like $160 billion.
That makes sense.
The Marine Corps is like $56 billion, which is weird. So I was like...
Crayons are cheaper than MREs.
That's weird. So I looked up how many people are like enlisted in the Marines and the Army. And so enlisted in the Army is like 900,000 active, and like that's including like Army Reserve and all that stuff. And the Marine Corps has like 180,000 active soldiers in the Marine Corps, and the Space Force has 14,000 active people, $26 billion budget. So it's like the percentages are way off.
Yeah.
Like, are they building? What are they building with all that? What are they using all that money for?
Yeah, you know, I've asked myself that question a lot with the Space Force. Like, it doesn't seem like we have the technology to just, you know, put people in gunships and send them up into the atmosphere and, you know, like cool mobile spacesuits and shit like you would see in movies. Like, what are they actually spending their money on?
Yeah. So that 14,000 includes like enlisted officers in the Space Force and also civilian engineers and stuff like that. And I went on the website for Space Force, and you can like apply to be in the Space Force just like any other branch of the military. You talk to a recruiter or whatever, but then it has all the jobs listed, and it's like all the people that work for the Space Force are called Guardians, like Marines,
like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
What are their physical requirements? Like, do I have to run or anything like that?
I don't know. I mean, if you're in space, you wouldn't have to be. I mean, you got to fit into a spacesuit, I guess.
Yeah, but you
wouldn't floating around.
You wouldn't have to make a 6-minute mile. There's no pull-ups required. There's no gravity.
Yeah,
dude, we're in the wrong job. Let's fucking go be in the Space Force.
Well, you have to be. I'm too old to be in the Space Force now. So,
what's the age cap?
You have to be between 18 and 42.
Dude, we're 29.
We are 29.
Dude.
Space Force. Space Force 2025. That'll probably help with our re-election.
Space Force. I'm a veteran.
So yeah, I think it was all, and I was like, maybe that's what all this is all about. Or if you look at like videos of the war in Ukraine, a lot of it is just people getting gunned down and blown up and stuff by drones.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the video is either captured by drones or it's like drones actually showing them like killing people. And so I thought maybe it might be a way to push legislation for stricter drone regulation.
I could see that, especially with the tech that drones have now. Because most people, you think of a drone, you think of like a plane that's just remote controlled. But now drones are more like helicopters or quadcopters.
Right.
So they have much more versatility. They can still maintain a high rate of speed, but then they can go in and out of a lot of different, more complicated areas that don't require you to have forward momentum.
Right.
And less rear propulsion and more upwards propulsion. So it's like you were saying with the videos of Ukrainians and shit getting killed by drones, where they rig up these fucking drones with a claw arm and then a solenoid that'll pull the pin on a grenade and just drop the grenade.
Yeah.
That they'll just fly over, later fucker, and then get out of there.
Yeah, I've seen probably 100 videos of that exact scenario, that people are laying in trenches and the drone just flies over and they're looking at them, they look up and the fucking grenade drops right on top of them. Like, fuck.
You just look it up. Oh, fuck.
Or they're like shooting at the drones because the drone has like the drone is like swarming around them trying to hit into them and blow them up. But like, yeah, a lot of, and they're not like super expensive drones. They're just like the drones you would buy at like Best Buy or something.
Yeah.
Just the small little.
They're not buying like the good ones, like the DJI brand ones, but you can still get really cheap drones that'll do the job from 200 or 300 feet away,
right.
Remote control, for a couple $100.
Yeah. Did you see the video of that guy that was talking about? He's like a drone manufacturer, and he's talking about like what drone capabilities are and all that stuff, and how he thinks it could be like drones that are sniffing for radioactive material, I guess.
I did watch that because he was he's the CEO of the company that manufactures the large drones for the military, and they have like a prime contract, like they're the only supplier kind of thing. And so he's like, whatever you're seeing in New Jersey, that's not us. Those are not ours. But he talks about that, but small trace amounts of radiation maybe, but large amounts ionize, and they would just kill the lithium ion battery that's inside that drone if it got near it.
Right.
So I just don't see that working unless it's maybe they're keeping them high enough that they're not going to be affected, but you know, their Geiger counter can measure it or whatever from a distance and go, okay, there's a hot spot. I don't buy that specifically. I think it's just too easy.
Yeah.
Besides, why would there be radiation unless it was like a dirty bomb situation or something like that?
Well, he was talking about, and maybe it was another video that was going in more into depth about like they believed that there was a nuclear weapon that was lost or misplaced and maybe got into the wrong hands. And there was another guy talking about how he knew firsthand of somebody saying that they were in the same room as a nuclear weapon that was misplaced and was heading for the United States. But it was like in the early 80s, I think it was during Ronald Reagan's, one of his terms, they had lost like 130 nuclear warheads, and they found most of them, but there was a few of them that were still lost, and so they were alluding to that was one of those things, one of those nuclear warheads. But this person the video that I was watching was talking about like, if that was the case, that nuclear warhead would be at this point about 40 years old.
Yeah.
And you have to do maintenance to keep the plutonium richness level.
Yeah, because the isotope would decay over time without the proper maintenance, because they do have to take out the nuclear cell and basically maintain it in a specific way. I don't know the specifics on it. I went down the rabbit hole on all the Kyle Hill videos on radiation stuff and all that. And so one of his videos, he kind of talks about that. But yeah, it like the one story of the guys, I think they were Russian. They were stuck out in the wilderness because their truck died, and then they found these big metal cans that put off all this heat, and so they're stuck there in the wilderness in like Siberia or whatever, and they're using these cans to stay warm, and then they ended up dying from radiation sickness because that isotope was decaying at a rapid rate.
Right.
So yeah, I don't see that, and if that was the case, I really feel like some other kind of scientific instrumentation would have found that by now.
Yeah.
But that kind of reminds me of the movie Broken Arrow. You know, with John Travolta.
Yeah, I just don't remember the movie.
There's one of the characters in the movie, somebody told him we have a broken arrow, and he's like, well, what's that? And tells him it's when a nuclear weapon disappears. He's like, I don't know what's scarier, the fact that a nuclear weapon disappeared or that it happens often enough that we have an actual name for it.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing. Like, oh, we just lose them?
Yeah.
No, you lose your car keys. You lose your cell phone. You don't lose a weapon of mass destruction.
If you just got them laying around, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I mean, when you got a billion of them, one or two is bound to disappear. Tax write-off.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that the timing of everything was really odd or convenient.
Very convenient, and it kind of goes in line with something else that's tertiary to that is, Stephen Greer?
Yeah.
Dr. Stephen Greer. So right before all the drone stuff started happening, he went on social media and he was like, I've decided I'm just going to release all my files to the public. Everything I've got. He's like, I don't know if I'm going to do it by like the end of the year or the beginning of the new year, because we're building a website and trying to make it like uncrackable and things like that so it can't be taken down. And it was like right after that all the drone stuff started happening, and then all the plasmoids and much more, or I should say many more UAP sightings than most of the time, because I kind of keep my finger on the pulse of that sort of thing, but it's just like every day I see 4 or 5 of them, then I go, that looks pretty legit.
Yeah. Versus in the previous months, I'll see maybe 1 or 2 here or there. I go, okay, that one looks legit. These are all bullshit. But now I'm seeing them all the time and going, there seems to be a huge upswing in activity. Yeah.
Have you watched any of the videos on the plasmoids?
Yeah.
I think the ones in New Jersey are particularly interesting because they're just floating balls of what looks like light.
Right.
And these drones will fly up to them, just fucking tank out of the sky.
Yeah, a lot of them, again, there's quite a few of them, and it's like people are recording a light in the sky, and it's like, look at this plasmoid, and they zoom in on it with their camera, with their phone, and it's like, again, your phone is not meant to take video of something with a dark background that's just a big bright light.
Yeah.
So it's not going to focus on it, so it's going to just appear as like a pulsating light or a ball or an orb. So again, a lot of those I just discount as like people not understanding the technology that they're using in their iPhone, of like, if you zoom in on any light that's super far away, it's just going to look like a pulsating orb. But there are a few that are like really interesting. So again, it's like the 1% of the video, all the videos that are out there that are like, okay, what is this?
Yeah. It's kind of like when you see the UAPs and stuff go in and out of the ocean.
Yeah.
And they make a big splash, but all of the government reports say that when they go in and out of the ocean, they don't make a splash, and when they come out, they're dry. Mm-hmm. So it's like I automatically discredit all of those too.
Yeah.
Unless it is in fact an ARV, and they just have not perfected that part of the technology that allows actual alien craft to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So I'll give it some credence on that, but for the most part, I go, nah, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not a real alien. It's just like the beginning of last year, where 5 different objects, UAPs, were shot down. 3 of them over United States soil, 1 in China and 1 in Russia, all within a few weeks of each other. Just randomly shot down by military aircraft. Like, every story of military aircraft chasing UAPs or trying to shoot them down, they've never been successful. Their weapon system gets shut down, or the plane gets malfunctions, or whatever happens. Like, they have the technology to repel all these like basic kinetic weapon attacks. So how are these 5 objects able to just be shot down?
Yeah.
And then the whole excuse of not going to get them is, well, they fell in frigid waters and we have to wait for it to be
cold.
warm. Yeah, we've had 2 summers since then, and we still don't know what the fuck they are.
Yeah. No, yeah, yeah, there's a lot of. I would chalk that up to, like you said, like alien reproduction vehicles, ARVs, mm-hmm. probably being shot down. But then again, I can see where it's in national interest not to disclose, like if they do go and find these things, or they're like, yeah, we shot this thing down, but we don't want to tell you guys what it was and like how we did it and how we managed to do it, because then you're letting your potential enemies mm-hmm. around the world know what your capabilities are.
That's true, but I also think it's behooving that we believe that our enemies have the same technology. Right. I mean, there's been multiple stories, I'll say, of down alien aircraft in China and in Russia. And Russia at one point was just as scientifically advanced as we are. It's easy to believe that, like, well, maybe they have the same tech that we do. Maybe China does too. Yeah. But we're all keeping it hush-hush.
Well, yeah, I was just watching James Fox was on Joe Rogan's podcast just like 2 weeks ago. And he has a new UFO, UAP documentary that just came out like on the 20th of December.
Oh, so it's like brand new. Okay, yeah. I was thinking of the one he did, Moment of Contact.
Yeah, so he did, I think he's done a couple of them, previous one, but this one's, it's called The Program. It just barely came out like last week. Haven't watched it yet, but he was talking about, I think it was on that show, he was talking about how there was a alien spacecraft that was just left. They said it looked like they just landed it there and then left it there. It wasn't a scratch on it. It wasn't, doors were open. And but he found documents of the U.S. military confiscating it from Russia, from Stalin's regime. So this was back in the 1940s that they took this from Russia. So they had it before.
Well, and they probably took it from Germany.
Yeah.
Because there was that whole thing where Russia actually got a hold of Hitler and by and large a lot of his different fortresses and things like that. And then after the war you had Project Paperclip. Well, Russia had the same program with a different name, something in Cyrillic that I'm sure I can't pronounce. Yeah. Where it was kind of like a split down the middle, where the U.S. and the Soviet Union at the time, they took half and half of the scientists.
Yeah, they did a draft. I'll take that one.
Yeah, it was like two team captains picking their kickball team.
Yeah,
I got that. I got Von Braun. Yeah. Von Braun, come on, get over here.
Which is just another can of worms if you don't know anything about like the Nazi scientists that were recruited by the U.S. and went straight into NASA. Look that up.
Oh, yeah. Werner von Braun especially. Yeah. And again, with Stephen Greer, one of the people on his team, he alleges, was Werner von Braun's assistant, who on his deathbed said that, we had help from the aliens and they're going to be coming back, and some other stuff that he said, which you could just say it was death delirium or whatever, but he had said some other kind of off-color quotes about that while he was cognizant too. So I'm pretty convinced that aliens and Nazis were working together.
Yeah, I definitely think that they were chasing, if not working together, they had some kind of technology that they were kind of really working on back engineering.
For sure.
Or figuring out.
My theory on it is kind of more like, we don't actually have just one race of humans, right? We don't have just one race of dogs or cats or anything like that. So to me, it just makes perfect sense to believe that aliens have multiple races themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And some races are going to align with certain groups here in America, or certain races in the world, I should say. Like, there may be one alien species that prefers white people, or one that prefers just this political group, or one that just aligns with the LGBTQ or whatever. Like, why not?
Or I think one that's super interested in world domination.
Yeah, one that's just like,
wants
what?
to align themselves with a person like Hitler.
Yeah, we want you to take over the world, and then we're just going to come in, and then you're going to be our bitch.
Yeah.
You do all the legwork. I don't want to do it.
Which, I mean, it's a hostile takeover, let everybody else fight about it and then just come in and like make them clean it up, and then you're just in charge after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
I mean, You wouldn't want to pull out your big gun and just show them like, hey, this is why I'm in charge. Let somebody else do the work, and then you remind them why you're in charge with your big gun.
Yeah, if you were wanting to take over, say we wanted to take over like some like Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
Trump wants to be in charge of Greenland. He wants to buy Greenland now, right? I don't know if you've seen that. Like
I saw something about
talking about him wanting to buy Greenland, and so yeah, we have a probably a more superior military, but we're not going to just bomb the shit out of them and then like take over because we want the resources. We're not going to destroy everything and then go in and be like, oh fuck,
yeah,
we just destroyed everything that we wanted to have.
Plus NATO would be like, no.
Yeah.
And then they would unite against us.
The same thing I would think with aliens. If they see our planet as being rich with resources they can use, they're not going to blast the shit out of us. They're just going to like try to take over in a gentle way so that we have everything left over, or just make some super viruses and kill off all the humans. But they need humans. I would think they need humans to work for them.
Yeah, if you go by like the Anunnaki theory that we're, the slave race
right.
that's just been left here, then yeah, you would want to keep the humans. But that also kind of plays into the whole like UAPs deactivating nuclear silos and things like that, because you wouldn't want to spoil the spoils. So nukes going off is bad for the planet. Right. Obviously, you're going to radiate the water, which is our biggest resource. You're going to radiate the land. You're going to kill everything. Like, so yeah, let's just go ahead and let me turn that one off so you can't fire it. Or maybe they have some kind of time travel technology where they know like, okay, this particular missile is going to go off and it's going to spark a war of nuclear proportions, so let me just shut this one off out of the 50 you have.
Yeah.
Which is always weird.
I don't know. I guess starting to lean more towards the reptilian theory of they feed off of the bad energy of people, so they just constantly create turmoil on the earth and feed off the negative energy.
So basically all politicians are reptilians.
Yes. Yeah, that's all bullshit.
Or is it?
Yeah. Just another theory. You want to chase that rabbit hole.
I like theories. They're fun.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't believe it, it's fun to look at.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to aliens and things like that, because that's one of the biggest pursuits humans want to know about. We don't want to feel like it's just War of the Worlds. We want to feel like it's more benevolent than that. Like we have something we can ascend to instead of just being, the ants that we are now.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, in the cosmic spectrum of things, that's all we are is fucking ants.
Yeah, we're just the microbes on this cellular planet that, maybe that's what the drones are. They're like the nanobots of the surgeons, the cosmic surgeons that are working on this sick dog that we're a part of.
Or maybe they're actually scanning people because they got to know who to keep after a Holocaust.
True.
Because they're like, oh, this one's got strong genetics. This one has a high aptitude. This one is good for breeding, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So they're just like, nah, pass, fail, pass, fail.
Yeah.
What I think is weird about the drones is it was enormous in New Jersey for like 2 weeks.
Mm.
And suddenly they're being seen over LaGuardia Airport in New York. And then they're being seen over Seattle. And then in Texas. And now they're being seen here in Salt Lake. Like over Hill Air Force Base, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But now they're being seen in the valley as well. So it's like, why are drones being spotted over all these major metropolitan areas across the United States?
Could just be because there's a lot of people around to be able to see them. I mean, if there really are drones that are scoping shit out, they could be in more rural places, just people aren't out there to see them. But also, there's a lot of people there that are like I said, clout chasing and trying to get like playing a prank on everybody by flying drones over some shit so they can get attention, you know.
Yeah, that's where I encourage people to not fucking do that, because all you're doing is watering down the possibility of getting the truth.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with all those congressional hearings, and then people all over social media are like, so the government just said aliens are real. No, they did not.
Yeah.
That is not at all what happened. Go watch the fucking thing before you make a video.
I mean, if you watch it, I mean, especially this latest one, they had Lou Elizondo, who was the director of ATIP, right? Which was the organization that was kind of in charge of researching UAP activity, started in like 2005 until 2012, where it was defunded supposedly, but it was actually just changed into a different government entity,
as it always does,
and just kind of went dark after that. But he was kind of the main guy. It was him, and then a researcher who was like a news reporter guy, and then a guy from NASA, Mike Gold, who was there basically just trying to allocate money to NASA.
Yeah,
as just
NASA
saying,
always does.
We can research this if you would just give us money.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, that's why I leaned more towards that hearing being largely based. I mean, largely kind of for the purpose of like putting it out there in the public so that like they don't question the allocation of money being put into these programs like Space Force or like the new, what is it, UAPT or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is. I know the government fucking loves acronyms.
Yeah. Something weird. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically just the same thing as ATIP, just a different name.
And Project Blue Book and the other names that it's gone through over the last 80 years.
So I mean, people that don't understand that, it's like, no, they're not saying that they're real. They're saying that these people are talking about it in the government, and they want them to have an avenue to report these things without being ostracized or like threatened, because a lot of people are saying that, you know, they come out and then they get fired from their jobs, or they get demoted, or they can't get promoted, and so they kind of have to forced into retirement because they can't progress. So they want to create an avenue that's a kind of a safe haven for whistleblowers, saying that, hey, this shit is really happening, and not getting punished for it.
Well, there was the legislation that was passed, and it's over and with now, but there was like a 6-month window where a whistleblower could come and tell their story without violating their NDA, but it is violating it. It's just the NDA is like null for that 6 months, which was a really cool thing, and a lot of people did come out with really cool and interesting stories, but why a time frame of 6 months? Why not just make it permanent?
Yeah.
And I 100% agree that the monetary part of it is like the number one factor of why we're getting these whistleblowers and why we're getting people coming out and saying these things are real, or this is what I saw, or whatever. But I also kind of wonder if it's kind of a soft disclosure. Like, we're letting these government workers, government officials come out and tell these stories and say, these are things that I've seen, and these are things that I've experienced while working for the government. It's kind of like they could shut those people up instantly, but they're not doing it because it's kind of a slow disclosure. So it's like we're just giving a little piece at a time.
Yeah.
We're not going to have in 2025 Donald Trump walk out of the White House holding a hand of a little gray.
Aliens are real.
They're real, and I gotta tell you, they're beautiful people.
Beautiful aliens.
And just to remind you, they voted for me, not Kamala.
Well, yeah, I mean, also, going back to the timing thing, that 6-month period that they had, I mean, everything in the government kind of works on time frames, which is really weird, like, especially like budgeting shit. And so I kind of was looking into it, like, usually when there's something that is being reported on by all the major news networks and stuff like that, that's kind of a side piece, like UAPs. Why is everybody all of a sudden just like super hyper focused on UAPs, where people have been reporting these things for a long time?
Yeah.
So what else is going on behind the scenes that they're not wanting us to see or wanting us to look at? And the only thing that I could find that was kind of a major story to me was the possible government shutdown that was happening at the same time as like all these UAP things were going on and being focused on. So the fiscal year for the government ended in like September 30th, and then they passed a bill to extend a budget in place for 90 days, so that the government wouldn't shut down. The federal government wouldn't shut down, so they could reorganize and like come up with a new budget, which they still haven't done. They just put another extension on it. But the story that I got from it was that like they were trying to come up with this budget and putting so much shit into these bills that they didn't have time to look through.
Yeah.
Which they do all the time. And so it's like they'll come up with a 10,000 page bill and you have 10 hours to look through it and decide whether you want to vote for it or not vote for it, and you have no idea what the fuck is in the bill.
Yeah, just like that, what was it, like $2.3 trillion COVID bill for relief funds for everybody.
Right.
And then when it came down the pipe, we all got $1,200, and it's like, the math doesn't math on that.
Yeah.
And then they started breaking down the bill, and it was like, they're giving money to all these special interest groups. Like, one of them was, they gave $150,000 to a college department in Yemen for gender studies.
Yeah.
Like, we're struggling.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, we need that money.
Yeah. And really, that's all just like politicians politicking. Like,
yeah,
they're throwing in all this bullshit to allocate money to their own special interest groups that kind of support their
you got to pay back your constituents.
And so, this whole government shutdown or threatening a government shutdown, and most of the Republican Party not wanting to sign the bill because they don't know what's in the bill, and they want to wait until Trump gets back into office so they can have control of the House and the Senate or whatever.
Yeah, it's all red across the board. They want everything.
Right. And so they wanted to wait until that transfer of power goes into effect and they can come up with their own bill. So they made another extension for another 90 days or 3 months until Trump gets into office, and then they're going to renegotiate a bill or something.
Yeah, timing on that is definitely also fortuitous, but I don't think it's a direct correlation, because the government has shut down dozens of times in my lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
But it is funny that they're finally going, wait. We got this 1,500 page bill, and you want to give us till the end of the day to read it? Like, piss off. You can't even read a novel by the end of the day.
Right.
So I do think that's actually entertaining, and that is a step in the right direction. But speaking of Trump and the whole UAP thing, I do find it pretty entertaining that I always forget what the name of the fucking office is, but it's an office created to cut government spending. And who's in charge of it? Elon Musk of all people.
Yeah.
And Stephen Greer has somebody else on his team that's part of the team that works for the black budget, like allocating resources to black budgets, and saying that there's all this money missing, that it's going to something else that's blacker than the black budget, which so the black budget is, CIA ops and operations by military that are classified, things like that. Things that are actually beneficial for us because they do pertain to national security more often than not. So it's like, we don't question that. But then there's this other huge amount of money that's going somewhere else that even these people aren't seeing.
Right.
And so you put in charge Elon Musk, of all people, to oversee government spending, where he gets full access to all these things. And he's the CEO of SpaceX. So if there is something kind of alien related, he's going to be one of the people who's going to be, a go-to guy on that.
Right.
So to me, that was just an interesting choice. Like, I don't really think they picked him just because he's a really savvy businessman, which he is, and he's very financially intelligent and things like that. And he is also a patriot, despite not being a naturalized American citizen. Right. He's still a patriot to this country. But it's just like those pieces fit too well together.
Right. Yeah. And that's where it's like, okay, if all the pieces are falling into place for a certain narrative, you kind of have to lean into that narrative direction,
I agree.
Just to, following the breadcrumbs, you can kind of see where it's leading. And who knows what we're going to get in 2025.
I think we're in for a fucking wild year.
According to Stephen Greer, we're going to, within the first month or two of 2025, we're going to get some real information. So
I got to admit, I'm still on the fence about Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
It's just a simple fact that if the pieces fit together, it's because they're meant to fit together.
Yeah.
And it could be nothing, but at the same time, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a fucking duck.
Yeah. That's for me. Like, we've talked about it before on some of our other podcasts about like following the money and seeing where the money is being put. And it's like, man, you look at that budget for Space Force, and it doesn't make sense really, unless they're working on some crazy shit.
Yeah, the ratio of personnel to funds, even when you put it through the lens of, okay, so the Army has 900,000 people, and they have almost double the funding of the Marines, but you're also looking at Army Reserve, National Guard Reserve.
Right.
And things like that.
And it's like 900,000 people.
Yeah. But still, that's almost $1 billion per 100,000 people. Not quite, but close. Right. So how do you get 14,000, but it's almost $2 billion per person, or per 100,000?
Yeah. So it's like half of the budget of the Marine Corps with a tenth of the personnel.
Yeah. Like I said, crayons are cheap. They're cheaper than MREs.
Yeah.
I know somebody's going to be pissed at me for saying that, but jokes are fun.
Yeah. Calm down. We support the troops.
Beautiful. Some of the most beautiful men I've ever seen, I got to tell you. Tremendous people, every one of them.
So yeah, Stephen Greer. What? This is Stephen Greer, right?
Yeah, Dr. Stephen Greer.
I always want to say David Allen Greer.
The racist comedian?
Yeah. But that's not him.
So funny story is, when I was younger, my grandma owned a flower shop in Carson, California, and he came in to buy flowers, and I can't remember if my mom worked there at the time. I'd have to ask her, but I remember everybody who was there saying he was just like this racist douchebag the whole time.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird.
Like, how can that be? That's blank man's brother.
Yeah. He was probably the least funny on
In Living Color.
Living Color.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
He was never that good.
Yeah. But Stephen Greer. So he's coming out with a website, or he's developed a website, kind of like a crowd-based website, right?
Yeah.
Where you can like put in information and look up information.
Well, it's basically going to be a digital warehouse for everything that he's collected.
Right.
Granted, this is allegedly. I have a hard time with Stephen Greer because I want to believe him so bad, but then things come out with him, or he says things that I go, that doesn't math.
Yeah.
Like there was a story not that long ago where he was telling people that if you're at this specific spot looking in this specific direction, you're going to see UAPs. But, and this is all alleged, he hired a private plane to fly over like this lake and drop flares out of the plane and was calling them a UAP. That could be a discrediting campaign. It could have been real. I don't know. But it definitely casts a shadow of a doubt. And the one thing that he said that genuinely bugs me is he's like, all the events at Skinwalker Ranch are man-made. They're created by a teraroid. And it was like, I don't believe that for a second.
Created by a what?
A teraroid is basically an energy creation device that harnesses zero-point energy.
That they made there, or that?
Yeah, it's like a big gag, like somebody's in control of it, kind of thing.
Okay.
And that does not sit well with me.
Yeah. You can have your own opinions, I guess, but like, I don't know, when you're, I mean, half of the shit that we say on here, we're just talking straight out of our asses.
But we're not alleging to the fact that we have all these experts and first-hand people on our team.
Yeah, we're not on the other hand saying that believe this, but this shit over here is bullshit.
Yeah. It's just like when Stephen Greer talks mad shit on Lou Elizondo or what's his name from Blink, Tom DeLonge, or Academy to the Stars and things like that, and says all these guys are bullshit, but mine is the real deal.
Yeah.
And I go, that's not how this should work. You should be able to find a way to work together.
Yeah.
Even if you keep your entities separate, you should be at the common goal.
Yeah, it seems like a really hard thing to do in the world of ufology, as we're a part of now, I guess.
Yeah, you could say we're Gold Star
experts.
members. We've been to Phenomicon.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of like, we should teach a class.
Dude.
College professors.
Yeah. Harvard, give us a call.
That'll go, lead into our presidency and vice presidency. But yeah, Steve, I mean, what is he? He was a doctor.
Yeah,
but he's a physician, right?
Yeah, he worked in an ER.
Yeah. And so he was just a guy that was kind of interested in this shit and kind of started researching it on his own accord and then collecting files. And so he's kind of like us. We just, see shit that we're interested in and kind of course, he has probably a bigger network. And
yeah, so he talks about he had an experience when he was like 19, and it just he was so kind of enamored with the experience that it led him down this pathway to research all these things independently and what have you. And then for the Clinton administration, he got brought into it in a political sense, and then he's just like, that's been his job ever since. And
yeah.
I do give him credence. He's not making $1 billion off of these things, and he's not getting wealthy. In fact, he still has to come up with his own funds for his own life in his own way. I'm not totally sure how he's doing it. But even the documentaries and stuff that he's done, he crowdfunds them and then he puts them out for free.
Yeah.
Like you can watch Unacknowledged, or the more recent one he did about suppressed technologies and things like that. You can watch that shit on YouTube or on Amazon Prime or whatever for free. So I give him credence on those points. Like, even if he's wrong about certain things, I'm totally on board with the fact that he's doing them for the right reason.
Yeah.
I just wish he was a little bit more unilateral with working with other people. Because, like, he always talks mad shit on Lou Elizondo, and it's like, why don't you sit down and have a conversation with him?
Yeah.
And record it so we can all hear it.
Maybe that's the I know that, like, I've seen some of him talking about Lou Elizondo saying, why doesn't he just come out and say what he knows? And it's like, dude, if I was in that same situation, I wouldn't disclose everything that I knew because I wanted to keep my clearances. From what I understand, that's why he doesn't come out and say what he says, because he wants to be kept in the loop. Like, even if it's just like higher ups throwing him a bone at this point, like,
Yeah.
I'll still take that bone.
Something's better than nothing.
Yeah, if I can be kept in that loop, like, and who knows, maybe it might be another disinformation campaign, like they're just feeding it to him and he's putting out what he knows and is you know, cleared to say.
100%. And yeah, I mean, he probably believes in the same way that you or I would believe that the safest hands are still my own.
Yeah.
So if I have to keep certain things secret, I will, in order to be able to still be part of this and still advance our knowledge as a race, you know, as a species, instead of just being like, I'm going to say what I know, but then I'm
totally cut off.
I'm useless after that.
Right.
Like, they could kill me off because I've already said shit that I wasn't supposed to say.
Yeah.
I don't have any new information. I'm useless, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of disinformation campaigns, you know who's one of the people on Stephen Greer's team?
Don't say it.
Oh, you know.
Really?
Oh, Mr. Rick Doty?
Really?
Yeah.
That's hot, dude.
It's just another shadow that gets cast on the whole thing.
But he's back to telling the truth now, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, he was not telling the truth, and then he was telling the truth, and then he was telling the truth about not telling the truth.
But then he was telling lies about telling the truth.
But now he's back.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the hardest thing for me personally, is like, most people, like all these experts, like, or supposed experts, or people who've done a whole bunch of research, for the most part, I'll watch their videos. I'm like, yeah, I'm all in, and they get to a point and they say one thing, and I'm like, fucking liar, dude. You're such a liar, bro. Why are you fucking lying to me?
You've been lying this whole time, I bet.
Everything you say is bullshit.
It's like, what was that one guy's name? Me and Scott have watched a shitload of videos about him. He alleges that when he was like 17, he was abducted from his bedroom by some government people, and they put him on a 20-year tour to basically be this like interstellar soldier, and his story is so entertaining. I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. I can see his face. But yeah, allegedly he went to all these different planets and he killed all these aliens and did all this crazy shit. And his home base was on the backside of the moon. And then when his 20-year tour was done, he was like, how do I just integrate back into society? And they put him back into a 17-year-old body. Back went like from the moment they took him.
Yeah. And
then over time these memories started coming back, and it's such an entertaining story that even if you don't believe it, you're enthralled with it. And then he says like one thing and you're like, nah, fuck you, man, you're a liar.
You fucking sack of shit. It's kind of like Back to the Future, right? Where he goes and incepts his dad with fucking Darth Vader tones and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marty McFly did create rock music. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I think it's been pretty entertaining for the last month.
It has, and I think the best part about all of it is that it brings this stuff to the forefront, to where it really hasn't for a long time, but it used to be a really fringe conversation, you know, because I remember being a kid and it was like, you know, your parents' friends are around and one person talks about a UFO or having seen a UFO, and suddenly everybody in that friend group's like, yeah, this fucking so-and-so's an idiot. That guy's drinking too much or whatever. But now it's like,
cut him off.
Yeah, no more Coors for him. But now it's kind of like, somebody says, well, I saw something I can't explain. You're like, tell me, you know. It's no longer just like you're a crazy person for even thinking about it. Now it's like, this is a real science, you know. It's frontier science because we don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely the best part about the UAP situation as a whole. And they're, you know, a lot of different countries are putting more effort into researching these things because there are hotspots where there's consistent UAP activity, even over the Bermuda Triangle, where it's like you have 3 different nations are all looking into this going like, what the fuck is really going on? Why are we seeing all these craft just go into the water and not come back out? Or why are we having all this weird anomalous events happening all in the same place, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's, George Knapp recently just came out with a new docuseries. I don't know if you watched that. I think it was right around November. Researching UAP, and USOs. And that was one of the big things that he was talking about was like, there are so many reports about these UAP orbs that'll just go down. You can see them in the sky and go down underwater. So they were like trying to find and see if there's like an underwater base or underwater city that these things are coming from. But he did have, one of his, he had a guy that was, he was like a Navy diver, retired Navy diver. And then they go on an expedition to go find some stuff, and they actually record a big orange orb in the sky that goes down into the water. Looks like it could be going behind the horizon, who knows, but it looks like it goes down into the water and then comes back up and then like goes back down, and they recorded it, which is pretty good footage from what I've seen. But yeah, I mean, it keeps developing, and a lot of these drones in New Jersey, they're talking about them coming from out over the ocean and then flying over airspace and over the city, which I guess New Jersey's been kind of a hot spot for that type of stuff for a long, long time, like decades. And even, who was it, David Fravor? Was it Fravor or
Grutch?
One of the commanders of the fighter jet teams, that they were seeing these orbs, but they were flying training missions off the coast of Virginia Beach, which isn't too far away from New Jersey. But they would go out, and it was like 10 miles offshore to 250 miles offshore, which they would do their exercises in this box, their workspace. But in 2014, I think it was, they upgraded their radar systems in their airplanes to a different type of radar that was more technologically advanced than the ones they had previously. And as soon as they switched over to this other radar system, they started seeing these anomalies on their radar system, and they thought maybe it was a glitch in the system, or they didn't really know what it was until they started like actually tracking them down and going and finding these things. And he said he had one team, it was 2 jets that were flying in formation, close proximity to each other, and they flew right, and there was something that flew right in between them, in between the 2.
Wow.
And they said it was an orb that had a big black cube in the center of it, and an outside that was just like see-through, almost like a bubble, but they flew right past it and saw it.
Wow.
And but they said they would track these things sitting perfectly still in 130 mile an hour wind up in 10,000 feet.
Yeah, just hovering.
Also like traveling into the wind at 0.8 Mach, so like 300 miles an hour into the wind. So they've been reporting these types of things for a long time out there.
Well, yeah, one of the radar operators from the Nimitz, from Dave Fravor's story, is he came out finally and was, it's been a while ago, And he's like, the Tic Tac thing was crazy and all, but we've spotted weird anomalous things almost every day.
Yeah.
But we were not allowed to report them. We weren't allowed to talk about it. And for the most part, if we would try to go back and review the footage or the radar data, it's gone.
Yeah.
So it was such a tightly kept thing that even if we wanted to talk about it, we couldn't. But the Tic Tac video was very specific and very different because we were able to actually follow one of these objects for a change, which tells me that that object wanted to be followed.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was playing around, or it was just like, let's see what these Navy pilots can do compared to our technology.
Yeah.
And when it takes you 3 miles to make a bank, but these objects can go,
Yeah.
go fuck yourself. It's like, it's not even close to a fair dogfight. It's just, I can outmaneuver you, but I want to see how well you can keep up.
Right.
So I'll just drag down.
Well, also, he was talking about it also. He was like, a lot of people ask why we didn't just like hunt these things down and see what they were. And
because
like,
you can't.
well, first of all, we couldn't like keep up. You know, we'd try to go and see what they were and they'd be gone, and then all of a sudden they'd pop up on the radar 80,000 feet above us in the atmosphere, and then like go from there to sea level in under a second. But also they have a certain allotted time to do their training, and it's like $35,000 an hour to operate these airplanes.
That's super high octane jet fuel.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
So they can't just really like do whatever the fuck they want. They have certain shit that they have to do. So,
dude, I saw a crazy UAP video a little while back. I think I may have shared it with you. Maybe I didn't. But these people on this commercial jetliner see this UAP, and it's off to the port side, and it just goes right up underneath the aircraft. And it's literally like, it looks like it's inches away. And what convinced me that it was real was that I saw multiple videos from different angles of the same thing. So like 2 passengers on the port side captured it, like one is in front of the wing and one is sitting behind the wing, and they both capture it going over. And then a couple people on the starboard side also capture footage of it coming out from underneath the plane.
see, that's really believable. Like multiple people, multiple angles.
And you can hear everybody on the plane itself going, oh my God,
Yeah.
because it literally looks like it goes, like it could have touched it. And it, obviously a commercial jetliner is, 500 miles an hour, 35,000 feet in the air. And this UAP is just like,
Yeah.
I'm just doing my thing, don't worry about me.
Dancing around it. Yeah, I saw one last night that I thought looked pretty real, and it's a smaller airplane, like a propeller, like the propellers on a wing airplane, and they're flying, and they have an object coming and just goes shoom, right past them on the left-hand side of them.
Was it 2 dudes sitting in the front?
I don't know if you can see the guys or not.
Because I saw one that was taken from a point of view like right behind the pilot. It was almost like a training plane, and there was 2 dudes sitting in the front, and they're just like,
Maybe it was. I can't remember if there was people in the frame or not, but it looked pretty convincing.
here's one for you. The video from the military base, I cannot remember what country it's in. Kandahar, maybe something like that. The weird, like squid looking thing that flies across. What do you think of that one?
There's been a few like of those that are really weird looking. It could be like a cluster of balloons, but the way that it moves, it's like
there's no movement in the tendrils though. It's just the whole thing is stationary going across the camera.
Yeah.
Which just makes it even more complicated for my mind to comprehend. Like, is this thing not affected by gravity or wind or whatever sense of propulsion it's going? It's like you go forward in your car, your head goes back. But that's not happening to any of these floppy pieces that are hanging around.
Yeah.
It just, none of it makes any sense in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to like write it off as like maybe it's a big fucking, like... So one time, we were in our backyard and we were jumping on the trampoline when I was like 10 years old. We looked up and scared the shit out of us because we just weren't expecting it. It was a little bit of a breezy day. Where there was a big plastic bag that was floating around in the air, but it just flew like over the top of us, kind of like came over the house and then flew over the top of us. And as we were jumping on the trampoline, we looked up and saw it and it was just like, what the fuck is that? Could it be something like that? Possibly, but like, you can never really tell if the person in the that's recording it is moving, or you know what's going on with that. But yeah,
that's another reason I have a hard time with that one, is because the camera stayed stationary on this object, floating all the way from one end of the base to the other.
Yeah,
didn't change its flight path or anything. It looks like it gets bigger because of forced perception, because it's getting closer to wherever the camera is, and then just turns around and goes off into the desert. And I can't wrap my mind around what any of that could be, you know. And as logically as I try to think about those things, or you know, even like ghost videos or stuff, where you try to come up with an explanation of how somebody could fake it before you resign yourself to say it's real, that one I'm just like, I got nothing. If it's an alien, it's a fucking weird looking alien.
yeah,
If it's a camera trick, fucking well played.
yeah.
I never did look into it deep enough to see if anybody saw it in person or if it was just visible on that particular light spectrum, because it was filmed in night vision. But it's just like, let's say that object was actually there, but it was not visible. How is that possible?
Yeah.
You know, like not one person happened to be looking that way, or because military bases have guards, you know, walking past, looking out into the distance and even into the sky and things like that. But did nobody see it? Was it only visible in that one spectrum of light, or how was it even staying in the air? You know,
Yeah.
the balloon thing is always an easy theory, but you've seen how a balloon behaves. Like, they're susceptible to wind and everything like that, and especially when they go higher up where the air is thinner, where they're going to have more movement going on, especially with shit hanging down. You know, you think of the I can't think of what that material is called, that like nylon plastic shit that you tie onto a balloon. It just flaps in the wind.
Yeah, little ribbon tails.
Yeah, but that object perfectly stationary the whole time.
Look like a little mini city floating around. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely plenty of videos out there that are really unexplainable.
By our standards and approximations, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that probably comes from more of a limited point of view, because we just don't know as much about, you know, military technologies and things like that, or what they're testing and things like that. But at the same time, just having kind of an analytical mind, you'll be able to go, this doesn't add up, or this does.
Yeah. Why did they cut it off right at this point? Like, you know.
Yeah.
Which way is the air blowing? Which way is the wind blowing?
Yeah. Or, you know, why is there no extraneous movement on this object? Why is it not affected? Why is it maintaining this perfect, you know, rate of speed or things like that? It just comes off as weird, and you go, God, I really want to know what the fucking truth is.
Yeah. And there was a few videos that I watched, especially on the New Jersey drones, where it's like the person is filming and it's like, dude, those lights that they're filming are clearly a reflection off a window.
Yeah.
Like, you can see like cars going by and the headlights moving, and they're like, look, that alien, that orb is shooting lights, and it's like, those are cars driving past and you're filming through your car window.
Yeah.
Are you fucking... You think we're that stupid? But people are, I guess. I don't know.
It's like that one time when we were at that Airbnb and the kids were taking the camera around and got a picture of one of the windows, but it looked like writing and light on the picture. And we're just like, what the fuck is this? And then we realized it was the lights from the church across the street, but the camera wasn't being held still. It was taking like a long exposure.
Yeah, right.
So it looked like letters. And at first it was like, holy shit, what is this? Then you figure it out and you're like,
it's ghost writing.
Like, fuck, that's lame. I wanted it to be something cool. I saw a really good one earlier. This woman was like, do you see that glowing red light on top of that building they're building over there? And the husband's like looking out the window like, I don't see anything. She's like, you can't see that light. He's like, no, I don't see anything. She's like, hold on, maybe the reflection from the light on the glass means you can't see it. She turns off the light. Husband gets really close to the window and he's like, I don't see it. And then somebody, like their buddy or whatever, fucking jumped up on the window, scared the shit out of him. And it was like, dude, you had me there for a second. Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah, maybe that's what we should do, is just like start a debunking channel and start recreating some of the shit that we see.
Dude, I'm 100% down with that.
Like, okay, this is a video of supposed alien spacecraft. This is how we can recreate it.
Dude, I've wanted to do that with so many of...
Or like ghosts.
Yeah, the ghost videos especially, where it's like, oh, this chair moves slightly like this. Fishing line. Like, it's when the chair does weird shit that you're like, no, I don't think that's fishing line. But when it's just like a slight... Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah. So, yeah, what are we going to call that?
DBs. Or I was going to say Dave Brown's debunkers, but we got to come up with something better than that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. It'll show right after Swamp Cops.
Oh man, our fucking dance ticket is getting pretty full.
Dude, we're just going to have to quit our jobs and just fucking full-time content creators.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of those. Like when we were using the infrared stuff is really easy to kind of like manipulate light and shadows.
Infrared for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The night vision it's easy to play with. I mean, just watching some of the people debunking ghost videos where they talk about, well, you could do this or that. They never put it into practice, which I think would be really cool if we were going to do something like that. Like, let's not just talk about it. Let's actually do it.
Yeah.
And see if we can get a nearly exact result. Or
we could do like a ghost hunting video, catch a bunch of fucking ghosts on camera, and go back through and say, okay, all that was fake. We're going to show you how we did it.
I thought about that, honestly.
Yeah.
I was like, that would actually be really cool. You'd only get away with it one time.
Yeah.
After that, people would be like, I know you're full of shit.
Yeah. It would be fun, though.
It would be fun. So, final thoughts on UAPs. How many, and I know you gave me a little number, how many of the overall do you think are actually alien or interdimensional or extra-dimensional, and how many are just reproduction vehicles? Drones aside, because we know those are man-made.
I would say actual, like...
Let's say there's 1 million every year.
Okay. There's 1 million sightings every year. I would say probably at most 2% maybe or less would be actual real like interdimensional or like UAPs. Probably 95% would probably be misidentification of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does that leave? 4%, 3%?
3
would probably be reproductions, I would say.
I would say the vast majority, and I'm going to say like 90%, is just misidentification. People see something moving. It could be an eye floater that they're seeing. You never know.
Yeah. That's not a UFO. You got cataracts.
You're like, I don't see a fucking thing. They're over here like this.
I can't even see the edges of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the final 10% half and half. That half is reproduction, the other half is weird shit.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a flying saucer that you see, or a tic tac, or a triangle, like the sky snakes, or seeing people floating in the air. These are UAPs as well. So unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've actually changed that term now too. So unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
Yeah, that's it. Which is basically the same thing.
It's just more all-encompassing terms, so you can use that in like the water or in the sky or anything that you just can't explain by known science.
See, we're even making the terms transmedium now.
Yeah.
So,
well, according to, I think it was Stephen Greer that was talking about the terms. Maybe it was somebody else talking about why they've changed the terms and why they keep changing the terms. Is mostly in this person's perspective, or his idea was that, so when you're trying to research and like use the Freedom of Information Act and go into the government archives, and
makes it harder to find it.
It makes it harder to find because you have to use specific words, and so if you change it all the time, if you ask for UFOs, they're not going to bring up anything that has USO or UAPs. It's just going to say UFO. So according to him, like, you have to use very precise language in looking for these things, and that's why they keep changing it. So.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, going back to the ATIP thing, you know, it's Project Blue Book, and then it's something else, and then people find out about it, and then they change it to something else. So if you're going to file a FOIA, like let's say I file one now for Project Blue Book, it's only going to have so much. If I file one for ATIP, you know it's only going to go till 2012. But as soon as I file one for whatever the agency is now, then it's like I'll get the information, but then more people get onto it, and then it's like, fuck, we got to change the name again.
Yeah.
So it's just getting people to keep chasing tails is all it is.
And it gets expensive too. I mean, it costs money every time you put an inquiry for something.
Yeah. Can you imagine being one of those people who pays for all the for all the FOIA requests, and then they get reports and it's like 90% redacted?
Yeah. Like
the only words in there are of, the, and.
United States. Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. But yeah, eyes to the sky, keep an eye out for UAPs.
Yeah, I really do want to set up some kind of like camera just to record over the top of my house, pointed towards Dugway, just because Area 52, you know.
Well, I mean, here in Utah, we've got Dugway, we've got Skinwalker Ranch, we have Blind Frog Ranch. We even have Zion's, where that weird obelisk thing was.
Yeah.
Like, we got a lot of weird shit going on here.
Yeah, we do.
Plus, it's already a hotbed for paranormal activity of different kinds. We got skinwalkers. We got all kinds of shit here.
Yeah, we do. We got the Benson Grist Mill that is probably not haunted, but it's fun to go to.
Yeah, I'm going to just go ahead and say it's not. So even when I see a ghost hunting video that takes place there now, I'm just like, scroll
fucking
on.
Liars, dude. Quit lying.
If he doesn't want you there, he'll make you sick.
I'm going to call you Mufasa because you're fucking lying, dude.
You're lying. Are you tired? Because you're doing a lot of lying.
Have a lie down.
All right. Well, with that, we'll call that good. Pay attention. I'm pretty sure more shit's going to come up.
Hey, according to Stephen Greer, we got, the next month, gather your supplies.
Yeah, if Trump doesn't beat him to it, he's like, wait a second, Stephen Greer's coming out? No. That's not tremendous enough. We have to do this first.
I'll do it.
You could never trust Kamala to do it. Maybe China? Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.